Well, hello everybody, Flying Crow back again, just giving you a short little update. This isn't going to be a very long video. I haven't got much to talk about. I have finished weathering my Jeep 7. If you remember from a previous video, I bought this at Discount Model Trains in Addison, Texas. So I just want to show you what I did to it. It's funny, even if you buy something that's kind of fits where you want it to fit, you've still got a lot of work to do to it. So, and since I don't have a train room yet, I'm just kind of doing some little projects to get ready for that. Train room's coming along well. I got some of the air conditioning duct installed. The only thing I'm waiting on is in a couple weeks somebody's coming out to tape and float the drywalls for me. So as soon as that's done, I'll be ready to start building things in the train room, get my layout moved down there, and start doing the modifications that I need on some of this. I'm going to be able to use most of what I have here in the yard area, but I'm still going to have a lot of work to do. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about this this Jeep 7. So here's the Jeep 7 I bought. It's a Proto 2000. It was already painted black for Kansas City Southern in their black paint scheme. So the some of the things I had to change is that it was numbered 161, which when Kansas City Southern first had these delivered, they were all painted black and they were numbered, I believe it was 150 through 161. So later on, of course, they started painting them white as time went on, and renumbering them. This is by the time 1976 rolled around, my era, there were only two black ones left, and that was 4151, which I had already had. I've got an Atlas Jeep 7 that I had that numbered, and 4160 was the other black one. So I had to change the number, was the first thing I did. So you can see here I changed the number on the cab and then also the number boards, so I had to redo the number boards. There were a couple other things I had to do too. So spark arrestors. So Kansas City Southern used these spark arrestors, and so I had to install those. I had to change the horn. The horn was not only up front, but it was the incorrect horn. So as far as I can tell from the photos, it was a Nathan P3. So that's what I put on there. And I don't know how well you can see it in the video, but believe it or not, the Nathan P3 that was on 4160 was painted white. So so I painted it white. They must have cannibalized it off of some other unit, or they had taken it off another unit and refurbished it at some point. So anyway, I painted it white and put that on there. Also, you can see I put the ACI label down on the side. And one of the things 4160 was unique for is, if you know, on the Phase 2 Jeep 7s down here, there's a panel that's slotted, that has several slots in it. So for some reason on 4160, that panel was not there. I don't know if they had been cut off or, you know, just the panels taken off themselves, but anyway, they weren't there on 4160 on either side. So I had to, as you can see, I had to cut and take that separate little panel off that was a covering over the top of the fuel tank. So I did that, and I had to paint the handrails white and also the yellow. It's hard to tell from a distance, but this is actually yellow striped reflective tape that KCS used on their diesels. And so 4160 happened to have the yellow striping on the white handrail, which was unusual. Usually they didn't do that until the handrails were painted black and they had the yellow striping on it. So anyway, that's done. And of course, as you can see, I have weathered it. Weathering is kind of a fun process, but one of the things I'm learning slowly as I go along, because I had weathered some stuff in the past, even from the time I was younger, growing up, but the funny thing about weathering is the more you do it, the more you learn about it. So one of the things I did with this one was I used multiple colors. So when you weather, you have to use multiple colors and multiple techniques. And the reason that is because in nature, nothing's ever one color. I find that if you use it at the minimum of 3 different colors, it does a better job. But I think I used about 10 to 12 different dust and dirt combinations and rust combinations on this particular unit. So, and you have to use a combination of techniques. So I've used washes on here. I've used I airbrushed. I dry brushed. So I used all those different combinations. And the reason that is because rust and dirt are different. They're laid down differently in nature. They're laid down. You know, rust is usually rougher texture. Dust and dirt is a finer texture. So those kinds of things make a big difference when you're weathering. So, and don't be afraid to try it. You can always start over. Weathering is not something you can't start over with. So you can always, you know, try it again. And if you're really afraid to do it, get some old boxcar, buy a Tyco boxcar, you know, at a train show or for $1 or off of eBay and experiment with it. And use that as your experimentation. I usually mix my own colors too when I'm weathering. I don't normally buy weathering colors. So what I do is get the black and white and brown out, and if you mix black, white, brown in different proportions, you're going to get different colors of dust and dirt and grime and things like that. Sometimes you might even add a little bit of red or green, believe it or not, because those tints are naturally found in nature. So are naturally found in nature. So go ahead, mix your own paints, experiment. I find the best paint for weathering is probably a water-based paint. Like I use the Vallejos. Those are what I use for weathering. I don't like to use them for painting base coats. That's just my personal preference. But I do like to use them for weathering, especially as washes. So that's what I did. And if anybody else, I know some people like to use pastels. I have used them on some things, but personally, I find I can get away with just as good as results from dry brushing and airbrushing and also using washes. So of course pastels don't hurt if you want to use that. That's they look nice too. They're just not you know, of course they some of the ones made for models are better because they're a little more permanent, but if you're using regular pastels, they just don't stick as well. So that's why I prefer paint, and then I usually go over it with a dull coat afterwards. So I found a red-brown primer from Vallejo that I did use to paint my couplers with, and I thought it's about the best rust color, real rust color that I've ever seen, even though it's not advertised as a rust color. The red-brown Vallejo primer is really nice color for rust. So, and like I said, all the other like on the wheels, or on the trucks rather, I mixed all of those myself. So the other thing I did is I changed the wheels out. Of course, this being a Proto 2000, you know the problems they have with the gears cracking and things like that. So I went ahead and changed the wheels out. So it's got new wheels from Walthers. So that was, and I put a couple details on it. Aside from the spark arrestors, I put the rubber air hose down here. So a couple little things like that. And of course I put sound in it, and I put I put 2 cell phone speakers is what I have inside of it. And I have, aside from the 2 cell phone speakers, I've got a Keep Alive in it. I went this time, I was kind of unhappy with the manufacturer of what I was using as far as sound. So in this one, I bought a TCS WOW decoder, and I have to say that I am very happy with it. Right out of the box, I didn't have to program anything. Basically, right out of the box, it was set up nicely. It doesn't. I usually found with the other brand decoder, I had to set the start and the stop voltage and all that kind of stuff, and the start voltage and the speed, and I didn't have to do that with this one. It just right out of the box, it was just perfect. So. And you can also calibrate the TCS WOW to your engine, but I didn't even have to do that. I put it in there and started it up, and it was good, and I like it. So, seems to work really well. I of course am going to, one of my bigger projects when I get moved is to get. Right now, I just have the NCE power cab. What I want to get is their 5-amp system as soon as I get all the train stuff moved down. I just find that there is not, with sound decoders, there's just not enough power out of this starter system. So, and especially if you want to run more than one engine, even in a consist. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up. So I'm just going to plug in my decoder here, or my power cab. And I hope you can hear the sound really well. I think I'm going to move the camera in a little bit. I'm going to zoom out and move the camera in a little bit closer. If you can put up with my camera work, sorry about that. So there it is, and I'm just going to run it a little bit so you can see how it runs. One of the things is I've noticed here, and I'm going to make sure I put my switch in the straight position. I can, since I changed the wheel set out on this, I can. I'm going to take my power cab and put it to speed step 1. And you'll notice, look at that. So that's speed step 1, and that just creeps along. That's beautiful as far as I'm concerned. Turn it. You hear the bell, and one of the great things is the horn quill on these TCS WOW decoders. I love the way the horn. I think the sound is just incredible on this TCS WOW decoder. So I'm gonna speed it up a little bit more. I've got it up to 6 now. I just think it runs very smoothly. Just stop it for a minute. I'm going to change direction, and I'm going to go back and pick up a few cars. All right. So I'm going to pull this cut of cars out. And then switch back and push them up this other track. So. All right, so that's it. Like I said, I just wanted to give you a little update, show you what I've done as far as my GP7. Please, you know, any comments that you have, please leave them for me. I'm glad to take any suggestions. Glad to hear from other model railroaders. You know, how do you do things? Because every bit, you know, it all helps the whole model railroading community when we discuss ideas like that and think, you know, how we weather things, how we do operations. So just like and subscribe also if you wish. Just remember, I mentioned another time the contest going on for the 12 coal hoppers for the between the River Valley Railroad, Chuck Baker over there, and myself. And that's it for now, and I'll give you another update as soon as something big happens. So y'all have a good evening.